Good evening, my friends. It's great to be back in Cleveland. I love Cleveland. I got a thing in my heart for Cleveland, Ohio. Give it up to yourself. And welcome to the 77th annual Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards. And this is our 16th ceremony to be held publicly. Before that time, it was just done through the mail. Our 16th ceremony, and what a lovely ceremony it is each year, one to which I look forward to co-hosting with Ron every year. And this, by the way, is Ron's 10th year as head of the Cleveland Foundation. And what a remarkable 10 years it's been, hasn't it? Ron, thanks for all that you do for Cleveland and all that you've done to ensure that Edith Anisfield-Wolf's commitment, a visionary commitment incredibly made 3/4 of a century ago to honoring such an odd thing, excellence in the literary and scholarly explorations of cultural diversity. That you have ensured that this vision, this crazy idea, has not only been protected, it has been nurtured, it has been expanded, it's been fulfilled in ways that Edith Anisfield-Wolf scarcely could have imagined. Let's give it up for Ron Richard. These awards are chosen each year by a stellar jury composed of the poet Rita Dove, the novelist Joyce Carol Oates, the psychologist Steven Pinker, my colleague, and the historian Simon Schama. This award has always been a major national book prize with a host of outstanding previous winners, including, among so many others, Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, and even the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And now, thanks to the vision, commitment, and sheer energy of one person, we now have a hot website and live streaming video of our event, national press coverage, and several supporting lectures and presentations. And you all know who that one person is, and she's the lifeblood of the Anisfield-Wolf Book Awards, my dear friend and comrade, Mary Louise Hahn. Give it up for Mary Louise. Stand up, Mary Louise. Our annual ceremony has become an important event on Cleveland's social and intellectual calendar, and that takes an entire team of people to pull off, including Ron, of course, but also Cindy Schultz. Cindy, please stand up. And the 6 other team members who have worked for months to create this evening. Give it up to Cindy and her team. As Mary Louise put it to me just yesterday, and I quote in an email, making sure I was going to be here, she emailed me 3 times and then called me when I was on the plane. I mean, it was terrible. I was coming. I stopped to get my shoes shined. She almost had a heart attack. I am quoting from her email to show her that I do read them, even if I do ignore them. Edith Anisfield-Wolf, she wrote, who was a quiet and reserved person, would be astonished and thrilled with how many people across the country now understand her resolve to open minds to the rich diversity of human cultures and the tragedy and waste of prejudice and hatred. It's an honor to serve as chair of the jury and to play even a modest role in fulfilling Edith's belief in the miracle of the cultural diversity of the human community, a diversity that these awards are committed to nourishing and protecting. So thank you for honoring me with this assignment. And now, let's get on to the reason that you've come here to meet this year's honorees. It is showtime, ladies and gentlemen. Esi Edugyan. This is the miracle of phonetic spelling, ladies and gentlemen. If you saw this text, you wouldn't even recognize this child's name. Whipping from Baltimore to Berlin to Paris, Half-Blood Blues is Esi Edugyan's story of a character called Hieronymus Hero Falk, an Afro-German trumpet player, and his band called the Hot Time Swingers, as they leave Berlin in 1939 for occupied Paris, where Falk is arrested by the Nazis for the crime of being an Afro-German jazz musician. Degenerate, both by birth, because he's one of the Rhineland bastards, so-called, produced by the unions of German women and French colonial soldiers after World War I, and degenerate by choice, because the Nazis considered jazz to be a degenerate art form, a quote-unquote Jewish Hottentot frivolity. Think about that as an insult. A Jewish Hottentot frivolity. Falk is the central figure of this novel, which has been praised to the heavens, and which uses a little explored corner of the African diaspora to address themes of creativity, community, betrayal and preservation of itself, relations to the other, and the very nature of both historical memory and historical discourse. The novel is powered not only by its flights from place to place and person to person, but also, and I would say most impressively, by Esi Edugyan's brilliant use of Black vernacular. Vernacular language, the common language spoken by a people, has powered African-American fiction for more than a century. Think just of Charles Chestnut, Jean Toomer, and Langston Hughes, Zora Hurston, Ohio's Toni Morrison. The language their characters speak becomes almost a character itself. Vernacular is an expression of reclamation, belonging, of identity, and most certainly of place. It's also an assertion of authority over a particular story. It establishes the storyteller, if you think about it, as the master of the story, as the definer of her or his own terms. The story is about hero, ostensibly, but it is narrated by the bassist, Sid Griffiths, who has his own bones to pick and his own story to tell. Edugyan's language in the book is itself a hybrid, a mischling, to use the derogatory German term for half-breeds, quote unquote, and what Sid himself calls mongrel talk. She draws from the well-recorded patois of the patois of the time. Women are Janes and male musicians were Gates. I'd rather like that myself. Because they swing like Gates. But invents her own as well. In Sid's retelling, Nazis are the boots. Edugyan has called this blending of history's language and her own one of the genuine pleasures of writing this book. Indeed, it is one of the features of the book that critics have most resoundingly praised as well. Sam Sachs in the Wall Street Journal hailed the novel's entrancing period piece ventriloquism, as he put it. The critic in The Independent in the UK wrote, and I quote, "The novel is truly extraordinary in its shimmering jazz vernacular, its pitch-perfect male banter, and its period slang. Edugyan," he continues, "never stumbles with her storytelling, not even over one sentence." I'm sometimes leery, I have to confess, of comparisons of writing to jazz. When a critic writes, as one has about Half-Blood Blues, that its prose is, quote, velvety, fluid, and hip as jazz, I agree, but I worry that that formulation is too easy, too trite. However, in the case of this novel, it happens to be more than apt. As the judges for the Scotiabank Giller Award wrote, quote, "It's conventional to liken the prose in novels about jazz to the music itself, as though there could be no higher praise. In this case," they continue, "say rather that any jazz musician would be happy to play the way Edugyan writes. Her style is deceptively conversational and easy," they continue, "but with the simultaneous exuberance and discipline of a true prodigy. Put this book next to Louis Armstrong's West End Blues. These two works of art belong together," unquote. In the words of a Guardian UK review, Edugyan really can write, which helps to explain why this book has won numerous awards. In addition to the Scotiabank Prize, Canada's most prestigious award for fiction in English, Half-Blood Blues won the 2012 Ethel Wilson Fiction Prize and was shortlisted for both the 2011 Man Booker Prize and the 2012 Orange Prize for Fiction, among many others. It was selected by the New York Times Book Review as an editor's choice, by the Globe and Mail as a Best Book of the Year, and for comparable honors by Amazon, by Quill and Choir, the San Francisco Chronicle, to name just a few. Hap